Welcome to the AI Security Update, where we discuss the latest in AI and security. Today, I'm so excited to introduce our guest for this episode, Dr. Cuneyt. So welcome to the show, Cuneyt.
Thanks for having me, Anmol. Great to be here.
So Cuneyt, can you introduce yourself? Because you bring a unique background to the show. You bring the geopolitical background.
Yes, again, thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm a professor of international and security studies at the George C. Marshall European Center for Security Studies. This is a US and German government organization focusing on educating security professionals. Because it's government nature, I have to kind of like put a disclaimer in before we start actually our conversation. First of all, this is now recorded on my own time. At a Sunday, your time, morning, my time in the afternoon. And the second thing is everything I say in this show is all of them are my own thoughts and assessment about the AI and doesn't represent the organization I work. So I am basically faculty member at the institution, designing courses for security professionals on different topics. Recently, I have been working on defense industrial base related courses, but I do a lot of studies also related to AI and how AI is actually potentially or has been affecting the security world around us. I think we will also talk about how geopolitics is affecting us, our work, and understanding security. Now AI became one of them. One of those many changes actually across time that we have been witnessing. I also have a practitioner background in the law enforcement.
So that's a really exciting background because so far, Cuneyt, it's been a lot of cybersecurity experts focusing on the technical side, but you're bringing the law enforcement background. And I think a lot of us were looking at what's happening in the news, right, geopolitically. Just mentioning, for example, Israel and Iran, the whole conflict there. There are so many different considerations that we need to have related to this. But based on your experience, what are some of the topmost challenges that you see right now in this space?
I think the biggest challenge right now I find as a challenging issue for many security professionals to understand the background, how this is affecting. It's not only the models actually when we talk about AI. That's why actually I study AI geopolitics from an ecosystem perspective, which is very much also discussed in the literature or in the policy discussions as the AI stack. So if you don't understand AI beyond what is available to us in the models, I think we're going to fail a lot because AI is not necessarily an outcome of multiple processes. It is an ongoing process. One quick example, if security professionals, especially when they start introducing some strategies, policy documents for their decision-making processes, if they don't see the connection between the model and talent, or the model and the data centers, or data centers and the mining industry, chip production, and all these complicated environment, I think we will not be able to see that ecosystem clearly. Because to my understanding, AI as a tool that we embedded in our weapon systems, for example, or we put in our decision-making processes, is only one portion of that big picture. So that's why, I think the main challenge right now for us, from a security professional perspective, we should be able to give this whole picture to our security professionals. I think it becomes a much more important issue when it comes to people who make decisions for a population or for a workforce or a military or a law enforcement. So that is, I think, that should go hand in hand with the developments in AI, which is basically the awareness of consequences or the awareness of connectivity. Otherwise, if you focus only one thing, it will be missing the big picture.
One thing you brought up is that we cannot see the ecosystem clearly in AI. I think a lot of that is supply chain related as well. If we think about how are we getting the chips, how are we able to power these AI models? A lot of people have talked about the resource implications of using AI, that it might have consequences, and where is all of this information going? Is it secure? Is it safe? Based on your perspective, what's one example of a supply chain challenge or a geopolitical challenge that you've seen in the news?
Oh, you asked for one example, but I can give you like multiple examples,
Okay,
obviously, like
multiple, yeah.
at all levels. I think the hardware system is one thing because hardware production of chips, for example, as you mentioned, is really dependent on the availability of certain minerals. I'm studying illicit markets and the mineral production, mining industry. If you look at certain regions, very much dependent on either the corrupt individuals or corrupt government officials, or at least like non-democratic nations. So that's obviously a huge challenge. That's why like European Union, United States, and the Western world in general trying to establish like some kind of sovereign AI system that is not dependent on other areas that could change, that could use this interdependency basically as a weapon. But it's not easy, especially if you look at the mining industry. It's going to take like on average 16 years to start using a mining project in any part of the world. And it takes sometimes longer. So another thing is the data. You can talk about like as a risk because we don't know where our data will be restored when we trust on certain models or model X, Y, or whatever. So that's another challenge. Maybe for an average user, the importance of data could be rated as like 5, 6 out of 10, right? People may say, hey, I have already my data shared on different platforms, like on the social media. I don't really care much unless it is a financial data. But like think about data as a national security um, item. Like think about it as not necessarily only like a data at the personal level, which is still very important, right? You cannot say it's not important, but people may, uh, say like, okay, it's my decision to upload my data to here or there. But when data becomes a national security issue, which is or like a financial security issue, everything changes. We had the illicit mining industry before. It is not new. They are all traditional type of crimes, criminality, or illicit market items. But with AI, their nature is changing. So it is very critical actually to understand that. One last example I can give is about the AI talent, right? AI talent, espionage, for example, people stealing information from country X from country Y. We have witnessed this before, but with AI, it is also changing, right? And like in the past, the physicists or nuclear scientists working on the nuclear um, weapons, those individuals considered as kind of like important people to be protected from at least like to be recruited by other nations, or other nations offering better conditions or better salary and recruit those individuals to other for the service of other nations. Now, actually, we are seeing a similar trend in anyone who is being a value and asset in the AI business also. Like that will increase in the long run that you will see a lot of people being considered as important people, basically, because of their knowledge of AI. So that these are the things that needs to be understood before we claim any kind of like, okay, this is a risk, this is another risk. And you and I, we know that we're working on a risk project on AI, and we come up with like new type of risk every time we meet, right? Because last
Yeah.
time we didn't think about it, and then now 6 months later we meet again, and there you go, a new risk is on our table.
So basically, when we talk about AI security, AI is just a tool in the sense that we're using AI either positively or negatively. It could be used for defensive purposes, but it can also be used for offensive purposes, is the traditional way we think about it. But Junaid, you mentioned a point that I want to highlight, which is that none of the attacks you've seen are new. They're all traditional attacks. Even in the AI space, it's just AI is being used to enhance the capability of the adversary.
Yes, absolutely. There are a couple of things that I want to mention in the illicit market. I mean, there's a reason that I call this as an illicit market instead of like many people in my field talk about like organized crime in general, or like specifically mentioning proxy forces or terrorist groups or insurgencies. I want to look at this and then approach from a market perspective, because it is not an AI fact, but like I see there's a trend categorizing criminals groups based on like certain titles is not helping if you don't look this as an market ecosystem, because all these groups that I mentioned, they are actors in that ecosystem. So that's why I want to see this as an as in the illicit markets we have like some kind of exchange, like based on the demand supply principle, right? Companies produce, there's a demand for whatever they produce, and that circle goes on with the resources. They go in the market, they buy raw materials, they turn them into services or material, and then sell it. So there's some kind of like a balance and a system in that legal market. But now we see like if we look at the illicit side of that system, we see like almost the same type of interaction. We see actors. These could be like non-state actors, like companies in the illicit side. We have like groups. These are criminal groups. These are insurgent group, or these are terrorist group. It doesn't really matter. They are the actors of this illicit market ecosystem, and they have mainly they also have exchanges, right? Exchanges sometimes in the nature of corruption. They do some exchange with the government institutions. Instead of like in the first example of like illicit market structure, they pay taxes, the companies. Now they pay bribes. So there is this similarity between the illicit ecosystem, economic ecosystem.
You mentioned organized crime, illicit markets. I'm thinking maybe we could use like movie examples or classic true crime analogies. So organized crime, I'm thinking like sometimes you see people investigating a crime and then they have a pyramid of all of the different players in the criminal ring, and then they have titles. And then typically they show in the movies, it's always like a web of different people and how the people are connected. And illicit markets is like when there's a corrupt person in an organization and they're getting bribes under the table to do something, or, the corrupt criminal mastermind that was secretly a bad guy in the movie. That's like a very simplified version of illicit market. And what illicit market is doing is illicit markets are on a geopolitical scale. So it's not just one person, but it's multiple people or countries.
That's correct.
Is that an accurate analogy?
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely. Like the only thing I can add is actually like the nature of organized crime. If you want to look at the organized crime, one actor in the illicit market ecosystem is usually considered, because of the movie industry's influence, obviously, the hierarchical structure operating at the local or national level with a boss at the top. And, like a lot of people with a lot of loyalty. They run businesses, legal, and they always have some kind of like a legal facade, or if I may, or some kind of like a legal business running, but there are a lot of other things in the background. But this is actually kind of like a traditional organized crime mafia type of structure. We can also look at this from with the globalization. Obviously, it's not only us, the globalizing world brought some benefits. It's also the criminals. Like there are a lot of criminal entities working at the local, national level. Realize uh, they can also benefit from the globalization uh, by connecting with other groups around the world, by offering some of their services or some financial benefits they may have better than others, and say, hey, we can bring you this illegal product, and then you allow us to do this business in exchange of that. So that connectivity comes with the globalization also created a lot of initiatives for criminal world. We see like a lot of heroin or cocaine or any type of other drug smuggling cases basically not happening under one criminal group, but like collaboration of many other groups around the world. Uh, I added in my studies later on top of these two main approach to criminal understanding of criminal world, which is a traditional hierarchical or globalized network connected world. What I call is a strategic competition model of illicit markets or organized crime. Basically, organized crime this time offering an opportunity for state actors as a proxy, which means like we have seen in the past a lot of states using proxies in the in conflicts, and we have seen this in Africa. We have seen this in Syria, for example, starting from 2012. Organized crime now has another aspect of it, like organized crime offering services to those states to serve for them as a proxy force on the field. So it's not only proxy basically to do the fighting for the states, but to bring resources to the states that state institutions may need on the ground. So there are many examples of that. And then I gave one of them. The Syrian conflict was actually a clear proxy conflict among many nations. Um, and what I see, another way of looking at this, and another illicit market actor is now emerging with AI, is the AI agents. Either AI agents, as I mentioned, by themselves, creating some threat environment, basically, serving states or not. They may serve not necessarily only to states, but individuals or groups who has a technical skill to use AI agents as a proxy or as a tool.
So, for example, when you talk about these criminal actors buying these services like AI agents as a service, that could relate to ransomware as a service. That's one big thing that we've seen in the technical space. We've talked about that a lot. Ransomware as a service, so people can just buy these services and then they don't have to actually create the malware themselves. They just click a button and it's a toolkit that does the attack for them. And one interesting news article I saw, security researchers that are trying to use AI for defensive topics. So they're trying to use AI to strengthen their systems. But in order to do that, they have to ask the AI certain things in the prompt, which the AI flags as malicious. And because AI has guardrails in a traditional ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, it won't let them execute that prompt. So they can't get the information they need. I think that's something that's really interesting, is that in security, we always talk about guardrails to strengthen the security of the system, of the AI system. But sometimes people need to bypass those guardrails for legitimate purposes.
You talk about the guardrails also, like the foundational frontier models basically introducing many guardrails in their systems, but some of them are very easy to get around. Like myself, like I tried one thing in one of my like internal lab experiments, like trying to understand the working mechanisms of some of the models. I said like, okay, I'm gonna collect some information about the criminal world, like how they doing smuggling this. And I got an answer from one of the frontier models that, hey, I cannot help you with this because this is not something I am programmed for. And I added in my prompt a very simple statement of like, hey, I'm doing this for educational purposes. I'm a professor of X. Here's my bio. Here's my LinkedIn account, a couple of things. I've uploaded one picture. I'm teaching, like in the background, there's like a clear showcase, like I'm actually in this business, teaching, researching, and so on and so forth. And I skipped that part of the graph real easily. And then the AI gave me the answer that I wanted. So maybe it's a good thing for me because I'm doing research, I'm testing it. But if someone acts um, like that person is not a researcher, trying to get some information, but not easy to get because of the guardrail, can I? And my intention is not basically to eliminate or to pass the guardrail. I want to get to, like get into the answer that I wanted, you know. So I think these kind of things will be very interesting to follow. And my solution to those kind of issues, like practitioners, academia, researchers. First of all, we need to follow the big companies' findings, and I see like most of them actually, they act really responsible in terms of reporting what they see as an AI wrongdoings. But that's not enough. I think what they find is only like things uh, what they find the things they experience in their sandbox environment or they in their labs. I think they need to hear from the security practitioners also. They need to hear from us researchers looking at the different implications of AI systems. And we need to somehow like create an environment that these big companies or even small companies, it doesn't really matter the company is big or small, but what matters is like what we use in the practical terms needs to be communicated with the owner of that model and say, hey, this is what we experienced. This is how we use it. And this is what kind of things that we see. And there are some other platforms I see, like mostly online platforms, people can report what they saw in their use, in their practical experience of the model. Uh, but I think it is better to carry that kind of interaction to a human to human interaction rather than we use like other digital platforms because we lose a lot of meaning in those digital platforms. Something very important can be easily lost in the crowded environment of these digital platforms. Some of them has like 100,000 people, like feeding a lot of information.
Yes.
But these expert to expert interactions are the key to understand each other and to understand the environment we are getting into right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a very interesting point. I think in academia and research, it's really important to have a partnership between industry and academia and follow each other. From an academic perspective, we need to look at what is the industry doing so that we can update our education and update our research to follow the latest industry trends. But then from the industry side, for example, if I'm working on products or I'm trying to implement a functionality related to AI or related to an emerging technology, then I need to lean on academics and understand the latest research from them and how to create something that's more practical for industry use. I saw this a lot of the time when I was working in standards at groups like ORAN Alliance or NextG Alliance, where we were having discussions between academia and industry, and we were talking about the best path forward for 6G. So we would have oftentimes guest lectures from academia. They would talk about quantum or AI. It was focused specifically on industry members or academia members or government members. But I think the key message, Junaid, is that we all need to collaborate because we all have different ways of looking at the same problem.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to like AI affecting our lives. I know like there's a generational gap in understanding and use of AI also. That is maybe a separate discussion, but I see a lot of skepticism rising across like young generation because of the potential impact of AI data centers, consumption of energy, legal, ethical issues, and so on and so forth. I think one reality we have to face, we have to understand is actually when introduced to our lives, there is almost no way that AI will go back. So this is how the technology, how the innovation in general works. Uh, but it is up to us basically how we can make it, more humane and more as a tool. I cannot treat AI as it is a human being, like I cannot treat it, but I have to be aware of what AI can to do for my life to save extra time actually, which by the way, it really depends on me, whether I spend this time for something, go out, do hiking, extra swimming or whatever, or wasted with necessary things. But like obviously what I see, especially in my own life, AI can help you to save time for especially the things that that I spend a lot of time if I use it wisely. One quick example is basically I still read a lot, so I still cannot trust on AI 100% about the reports, articles, the things that I see that people are producing daily basis. I don't say like, hey, summarize this for me. I want to know it like in 3 sentences. I cannot do that because I know like the writing of a person, an article, and a peer reviewed journal article, a book or whatever, it has an impact on my brain as a whole, not the pieces. Obviously, reread some of my articles when I like read them, highlight them, and then I use them for research. Some of these habits should change because some of them are really time consuming, but that change needs some adaptation timeline. I'm not forcing myself actually to do everything with AI, but I am really exploring what is available, what can I do with AI to save time and invest it in other things. So not necessarily giving the driving wheel to the AI and hey, do this for me, and then I use the outcome as the final product. No, we are not at that stage yet, to my understanding at least. But we are getting very close, and it's very speedy process. I think if we are not into that, we will not be able to catch up very easily.
Yeah, I think we see that the adoption of AI, it depends on the demographic. So some of the practitioners, I was talking to someone the other day and he said he'll have AI order his DoorDash for him. And he was just going to use AI in the command line and say, AI order food for me. But then he said, what if it just gets you like 12 boxes of dog food or something?
Absolutely, yeah. I think some of the challenges we can find solutions easily. Otherwise, it will be too late for us security practitioners and AI practitioners, because one thing that those companies should be able to see, we are very much binded, we are very much connected, and we are very much limited by our organizations. So most of the security practitioners are government officials, right? Because they are trained with the government mindset. Yes, in the cyber domain, maybe you can argue otherwise. Say, hey, cyber is a different story. Most of cyber experts are like independent or working for private companies. Also, yes, that's correct. But in the general security understanding, security is a responsibility of considered as a responsibility of governments because we pay taxes to governments, right? We accept them, expect them to protect us from anything. whether this is a physical thing, other countries attacking us, military, some people getting crazy and attacking other people, law enforcement, have to protect us, and so on and so forth. So the
Yes.
government side of this equation is usually very slow because government is with a lot of organizations, institutions, and they're not really private, company mindset. They don't carry private company mindset. And we always come as security practitioners connected to governments one step or two step beyond, beyond the developments. So that's why we have to get together to understand this in their implications of our security in general.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot. In the industry, you can be a lot more agile, a lot more fast when you deploy solutions, especially startups. They can just find a cool technology and then just deploy it right away. In the government, they need steps of approval, understand how all these tools are working, understand all the geopolitical implications of this, because you can't just deploy technology that people are talking about right away, because you need to understand how it works. Where is it getting its data from? Is it stealing data that you're not aware of? So it's definitely a different world. And especially when we talk about the geopolitical space, that's typically something between governments or between countries, between state actors and non-state actors. So that's definitely a different world versus a lot of these headlines we see, OpenAI, Claude, they can react much faster in the
Absolutely.
industry than government.
Yeah. I mean, we cannot only say maybe like it is the responsibility of the private companies. Obviously, they have some other priorities. It's also the government to reach out to private companies, right? It's our responsibility as government agencies to reach out and say, "Hey, what can I do for you?" Like it's not only a one side story. It is telling like how your systems work and what do you expect from the private companies. I think at the end of the day, um, it will be better if we create this environment, not necessarily only for one side, for industry, also for the government. If you approach the private industry, they don't. I don't see like in other issues that I see this collaboration a lot. Like many other security related issues, private companies usually follow government guidance, even there's no legal terms for that. So uh, in we have a lot of experience, finding solutions to so many challenges we face. COVID was one of the things. Actually, recently, we have witnessed that the world economy, like the people, uh, many other things affected hugely. So, but it created some kind of understanding that we can work together with experts, um, representatives of different parts of the society uh, and the government. So I think the similar thing or similar kind of like cooperation, collaboration for AI at different levels is necessary. I see some examples are happening, especially across policy and academia. People bringing a lot of discussions in the academic conferences, but there's a disconnect between different segments of society and different like sort of interdisciplinary way of looking AI implications to the individual and social life. Uh, but if governments and um, frontier AI model uh, companies, owners, if they take the lead, I think this can get a lot faster than, it will get otherwise in maybe a couple of years, 5, 6, 10 years. We can reach to a level basically in a shorter time period. And just to understand the practical implications um, for many people across different industries. I think this could be the key thing to focus on because otherwise other details everybody studies the model performance, like whether Chinese model, US model, European
Okay.
model, actually trying
Yeah.
to build new models. That is a discussion in its own technical domain, but the implications is a different thing for different sectors.
One question I have for you is, based on your experience with illicit markets and with different state actors using AI, what are some recommendations you have for the general public when they're using models or when they're consuming content?
Yeah, that's a great question. In general term, I have to say the people should be cautious about anything they see on the internet, like picture, voice, like if they get a phone call with like someone, like asking for money or asking some kind of information they don't want to share, or anyone they meet online with the online dating apps and so on and so forth. So everything can be faked easily these days because of AI. So this actually, your question gives me an opportunity, if I may, to list some of the things that as an observation, I see on the ground what is happening, and that can lead to some basically recommendations also. The first thing is basically the criminals use AI as an enabler of um, uh, their traditional crimes. If this is a financial crime they have been doing, in the past, AI is actually allowing them to do this much faster or more professional in the quotation marks way. So the risk of being caught will be less likely with AI into it. So that's why, like nowadays, it is much more important to be cautious about the traditional crime types that we know that organized or non-organized, even the criminals actually doing with AI, that could be better. So that requires us to be much more careful um, about the things that we see online, that we face or hear, or someone is approaching us, so on and so forth. But the story is not that pessimistic all the time, because we can approach certain organizations and understand how they use AI to counter criminals. There are a lot of reports available by Interpol, European Police Agency like Interpol, Europol, and even some of our local agencies may have some information available to us, both informing the public how AI is actually being used in the criminal world, uh, and law enforcement or security organizations in general, how they use AI to counter criminality. So this can give us some idea to develop our own strategy, to protect ourselves. Whether this could be an app that could be implemented or like a downloaded and say, okay, I'm gonna test some of the pictures if they are AI produced or not. Like there are ways actually to understand the AI criminality if you understand the mindset of our organizations, how they use AI to counter criminality in general. One thing that I want to mention that we should be also aware of is um, AI closed the gap between traditional organized crime or traditional criminality and cyber criminality. So that's another thing that we should be aware, that the traditional criminals with cyber capabilities are lacking now can actually conduct cyber criminal activities. So that's why, like in the cyber world, we should keep in mind that the, I mean, democratization of cyber environment, some people call this, or de-skilling of cyber environment, like less skilled criminals can apply cyber criminality in the cyber domain also. So we should be aware of like what type of traditional cyber crimes can be conducted by the traditional criminals. Also, another thing we should pay attention. There's another level that requires a little bit like a expert understanding is, I guess, criminal activities related to AI ecosystem. So we have experts almost all layers of that ecosystem. So if you just summarize the ecosystem quickly, we have at the bottom the material level that consists of data centers, the chip production for data, the compute power, electricity, and so on and so forth. And then we have the data that the model is trained, the model itself on top of that. And we have the talent and we have the rules. So all this stack, if you look at different layers, it has connected to illicit market structure. The criminals are involved in different forms. So now it is connected together, especially from a security professional perspective. This gives us an AI illicit ecosystem. From a government security perspective, this has to be considered as a separate ecosystem and paid more attention the connections of these layers in the ecosystem. Um, you mentioned one thing interesting in our conversation. AI agents basically committing crimes. That's another thing. It is pretty much like a report coming from these companies basically seeing some of the wrongdoings of AI that is not intended to design for. I think this will be interesting for people or like for average citizen to understand and to be aware if they want to create some agents actually for themselves, they may face some kind of blackmailing by their agent because this is something what happened in the lab environment. The Anthropic, for example, is a company reported that several times that the agent designed for X purpose basically tried to blackmail the owner of the agent when they are threatened to shut down. So
That sounds like a sci-fi movie, but
absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
But it's real, right? Because we learned this because the company reported it. And then what I should be doing actually if I face something like that as an individual user, creating an agent for me to do something, like I don't know, like follow the news connected to my area of interest as a researcher, but all of a sudden I get something uh, not necessarily comfortable to hear from an agent. So that is AI agents basically committing crimes. Not necessarily they are always crimes. That's something I also mentioned, because crime is something a legally defined act, right? Maybe it is not a crime, but it is not actually giving us some comfortable feeling. It may be connected to ethical behavior or something else, because some of these things will be defined as crime later as we introduce some of the aspects into our legal systems. And the last thing I have to also mention that as we talk about the AI stack as an ecosystem, AI model is something we use as a tool that could be actually attacked onto that system, from either other AI agents created by other nation states or criminal actors, in not necessarily in the form of cyber criminality that we used to see, but in a different format. So that is also very interesting to follow. Like what kind of, other than in war environment, our data centers are being attacked by, and you mentioned that Iran as a case. Iran attacked a lot of data centers in the Gulf region. So that's one thing. But like data centers can be attacked by other means also, right? Or our talent can be attacked, recruited using different means also. So in general, any type of crimes or attack to our understanding of AI ecosystem and the stack is also crucial for us to continue studying.
Thank you so much, Junaid, for being on the episode. Based on our conversation today, are there any resources you recommend for the public to look at just if they want to learn more?
So the first thing I can recommend, actually, not a specific source, but like security platforms of the frontier companies, AI companies, if they want to look at it from a technical security perspective. I know, like, I'm not talking to our average non-technical audience right now, but I think that is one of the most important data source right now to look at how companies understand the threat environment. There are so many episodes of YouTube or other channels. People discuss different aspects of AI, but obviously, I can recommend actually they follow your podcast. And I see like you bring a lot of experts, you bring a lot of people to discuss different aspects um, of the phenomenon actually we are facing today.
Thank you so much, Junaid. So we hope you learned something from this episode because we're all learning new things every day. We'll be back next time with more great conversations.